In this video, we're going to be recreating this shot from my Apple Airpods Spec promo, and we're going to do it inside a Blender. Let's go. The first thing we want to do is import our model. I originally got this model in 3ds Max format, but it also came with an OBJ, so we're going to use the OBJ. The scale is pretty massive, so I'm going to set it at 0.25 upon import, and then I'm going to split it by groups so that all the different elements are not tied together in one mesh. I'm going to hit import, and we'll see that it comes in and it's massive. But we can see that if I select these different elements, they're all separate, so I can move them separately. There's a bunch of stuff here that I don't need. I'm just going to rotate to the top view, and I'm going to hit Alt-Z for X-ray mode. I'm going to select everything on this AirPod, and I'm going to move it over. I'm going to exit out of X-ray mode with Alt-Z. Then I'm going to select all these items which I don't need and hit delete. Now I'm left with this AirPod. Select it, hit G, Shift Z so I don't move it on the Z axis, and I'll just move it to the center here. That's pretty good. One of the other things I want to do is fix the anchor point. So if I hit R, Z, you can see that it's rotating around an anchor point that's in some random position over here. So I'll select everything here, right click, set origin to geometry. And now when I rotate this, it rotates around the center point of the geometry. So I'm just going to line up my camera here to roughly get the shot that we need. And I'm going to hit Control Alt and 0 on the number pad to snap the camera to my view. I'm going to hit Q for my quick favorites, and I'm going to hit lock camera to view. Normally you would find that in the view menu. So if I switch over to this, you'd go to view and then camera to view. So check that. I'm going to hit 0 on the number pad so I can go back to my camera view, and now I can move this around. If this was not checked, you exit out of the camera view. So go back into the camera view and we'll check this. And if you want to add it to your quick favorites, right click on it, and this, instead of saying remove from quick favorites, it'll say add to quick favorites. So you just add it there. So I'm going to line up my camera to roughly the shot that we want to get. That looks pretty good. I'll hit Q and uncheck lock camera to view. This looks okay in the preview mode, but if I go into my texture view or my rendered mode, you can see it's purple, and also you can see the geometry. It actually looks like it's pretty low poly. So let's fix the low poly first. Add a subdivision surface. Okay, and I'm going to fix my camera view a little bit here. I'm going to rotate it just a little bit so we come around a little bit more. And I'm going to uncheck lock camera to view again. Now let's fix the texture. I'm going to go into my custom view, and we can see here that our material image is offline, and that's why it's purple. So I'll just click on the open folder button, and I'll jump to where our texture is. Texture, select it. That's good. Now we have the texture applied, and I'm just gonna double check that. So that fixes our texture problem and our low poly problem. Click here and enable rendered view in this view here, so I don't have to see it here, and I can just use this space to work. I'm gonna uncheck lock camera to view, and I'm gonna move around here so that I can place some lights. So everything is dark, so I'm gonna add a light to our scene. So I'll do a light, area light, and we'll just kind of make this a little bit bigger. I'm actually gonna make this AirPod a little bit smaller here. So we'll select everything and let's go to item, and we can see here that it's 52 feet. So I'm actually going to change this to inches. So if we look up how tall the AirPods are, they're 1.22 inches. So I don't want to make them that small because we're going to have trouble navigating, and that might be a little too small for the Blender viewport. So I'm just going to shrink them down. I'll make them roughly 13 inches. I know that's still huge, but it's going to help us with navigating the viewport here. So I'm going to hit 1 so that I can line this up on the X axis. Rotate around it, and we're gonna have to fix our camera again, so let's go ahead and do that. So let's hit Control Alt 0 on the numpad, and then lock camera to view. We'll zoom in, line it up a little bit, uncheck lock camera to view, and we're gonna rotate around this and place our light. So our light is right here, and it's massive, so let me just bring it down so it's not that big. And I'll do GY and then RX so we can rotate it. And I'll do GZ to bring it up a little bit. And let's go into our custom view here, and we can kind of see what's going on here. Now, the light is pretty dim, so it's only 10 watts. So let's bring it to 50 and see what that looks like. Okay, so one of the things that's happening here is our material is messed up. I'm going to click on our AirPod body here, and let's play with this material for a little bit. This is the material that came in with the OBJ. If I add another principled BSDF, you can see here that some of the values are different, particularly the specular, the roughness, and transmission. Transmission is what's causing this light to show up here, which is weird because the light is behind the AirPod, but for some reason it's showing up here. So what we can do is just disconnect this or delete it. I'll just disconnect this and connect the new one, move this one to the side here. Now we're getting something that looks a little bit better, but it's still not good. That light shining over here is fixed because we have our transmission down, but the roughness is too high. And you have to remember the AirPod has a pretty reflective surface, as you can see in this shot here. So we're going to turn the roughness down. And I'll just do like 0.1 for roughness. Hey guys, sorry to interrupt this video. I just want to remind you to like and subscribe so you don't miss out on future videos, including more from this series where we go over all of the shots from this Apple AirPods Spec promo, as well as future filmmaking and visual effects tutorials. All right, let's jump back into it. I'm going to take this light and I'm going to make it bigger. What we want is for this reflection to go all the way around this AirPod. And right now it's not doing that. So I'm just going to move it closer with GY. And we're kind of almost there, but the light still isn't wide enough. So I'll hit SX to kind of scale it out. And there we go. Now, if I switch this roughness back to 0.5, you can kind of see what's happening. It's kind of not really glossy and shiny. It's blurring the edge of the reflection and it's not making it sharp. So we'll go back to 0.1 and I'm going to take this light and I'm going to move it up a little bit. So GZ, and I'll do RX to rotate it down towards the AirPod. So I'm going to turn this up to 100 and let's do 200. Okay, let's stay there for now. I'm going to take the camera and I'm going to kind of line this up a little bit. So lock camera to view and maybe just rotate this just a little bit more so we see more of this grate over here, and I'm just going to center this now. So that's looking good. So uncheck lock camera to view, take this light and I'm going to turn it up to 300. We'll keep it there for now. I'll hit SX to make it a little bit bigger and also SY to make it a little bit larger. And I'm going to hit GZ to move it over just a little bit so we get a little bit more of the reflection on this side here. SZ. So we get a little bit wider of a reflection here, but we're getting more reflection here. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to do and hit GZ and move it down. And I can also do SZ, scale it down just a little bit so it's not so tall, and then GZ, move it around until we get it in the right spot. So I think roughly somewhere around there. And now we got a pretty good edge reflection over here, and it's about halfway through over here. So that's looking good. Now, one thing I want to fix is the world. So I want to just change the background color here to black. And now we can see it's way too dark. So what I'm going to do is duplicate this light. So Shift D and then Y. So it locks on the Y axis, and then hit zoom out and we'll hit RZ 180. And you can see it's already looking much better. So I'm going to take this light and move it up so we don't get that weird shadow up top here. And I'm going to rotate it down. So RX and just kind of rotate that down. Now that's looking pretty good. But one of the things I'm noticing is we have this ugly reflection up front and the light is too bright. Go into our light properties here, the object properties, and go to visibility and uncheck glossy. So that removed that reflection there in the front. Now the light's too bright, so we'll go into our light properties here. And instead of 300, let's do 100 and see what that looks like. That's pretty good, but I think we can do better. Let's do 50. That's actually really nice. So this is a personal preference, but let's split the difference and do like 35. I'm good with that. Okay, so that's looking good. What I'm going to do actually is take the backlight that we have here. I'm just going to turn it up just a little bit more. So 300, let's try 400, 500 just to give it a nice kick. I'm going to hit render. And that's looking pretty good. The only thing left to do is animate the camera. So make sure lock camera to view is checked and make sure we're set to frame 1. And if you want to jump to frame 1, you need to hit shift and hit the left arrow. We'll select the camera. I'm going to turn on auto keyframing here and I'm going to set the position of our camera. So I'll hit GZ and just kind of set the position of our camera here. And then we'll go to frame 80 and I'll hit GZ and move the camera up on the Z axis and stop right there. I think that looks pretty good. And now if I play this, we can see that our camera moves. One of the things I have to adjust is the easing on the camera movement. So we'll go to our graph editor. So we just want to select our Z location here. So I'm just going to shut off all these other ones so that we can just see the Z location, and we can zoom in here and we can see that there are easing keyframes here. So what we want to do is select all of them, right click, interpolation mode, and go to linear. And we have an extra keyframe here, so I'll just delete that. And now we can see what this looks like. Perfect. That's looking good to me. And I'm gonna hit render one more time just to check. Okay, that's cool. So we've successfully recreated the first shot inside of Blender. Guys, if you like the channel, please like and subscribe so you don't miss out on the next video where we're gonna be doing this shot. And again, we're gonna be doing it inside of 3D Studio Max and Blender. You don't wanna miss out. Thanks for watching. My name is Paul Del Vecchio, and I'll see you guys next time.